I've only known Irene for a book, but if anything happened to her, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself. This is my favorite book of 2018. Hello there and welcome back to Cuckoo for Books. My name is Salva and today I'm going to be doing a book review on Sarah J Maas's Tower of Dawn. This is a parallel novel to her 5th book, Empire of Storms. It's not a sequel, it's not a prequel, but it happens at the same time as the 5th book. I talked about it with my friends and apparently it's part of the canon. It's not considered a spin-off. 2 main thoughts that come from reading this book. 1, favorite book of 2018. And number 2, after reading Empire of Storms and doing a review of it, I was like, it was a cool book, it was fine. It was like, yeah, I like this part, I like that part, it was alright. After reading Tower of Dawn, I'm like, Empire of Storms straight up sucks compared to Tower of Dawn. This book for me, I think, showed that Sarah J Maas's strength really lies in single POVs. I recently talked with a lot of other fellow Sarah J Maas readers. The general consensus was that they stopped reading after Heir of Fire, or it started to go downhill for them after Heir of Fire, and that's really when the author branched out her points of view. What was it, like 5 at that point? And Tower of Dawn only focuses on 3 characters, Chaol, Nesryn, and Irene. They're all within the general vicinity of each other, so they're all sort of on the same track. She's not trying to do separate adventures in separate parts of the world, and this book reminded me that that's her strength. That's why we fell in love with the Assassin Blade, Throne of Glass, and Crown of Midnight. There are some authors who can do the whole splitting POVs type. Sarah, as talented as she is, that is not where her strength lies at all. It comes off as messy. This book also made me realize how good Sarah J Maas is at world building, and I feel like we've taken that for granted. You know, being 5 books into the main series, I'm just kind of like, meh, okay, we get it, this is the world we live in, cool. But seeing her introduce a whole new continent in this book, I'm like, dang, I forgot how skilled she is at world building. It definitely gave this series a much needed kick. Like, now I'm telling people who have quit the series, I'm like, no, just read until you get the Tower of Dawn. It'll wake things up, I promise. It's gonna get good, it's gonna get good. So in this book, we follow Chaol and Nesryn. At the end of Queen of Shadows, they went off to the southern continent to get an army and to heal Chaol's back. Oops, that was a big fat spoiler. But you shouldn't even be on this review if you haven't read Queen of Shadows. They were not present at all in Empire of Storms, and they get their own book here. This book also introduces the character of Irene Towers, who is the healer assigned to Chaol. I had reservations personally. I was like, don't add a new character this late in the game. What are you doing? Turns out she was my favorite character in the whole novel. I feel like within a few short chapters, her personality and her characteristics were very well defined already. You knew what her goals were, you knew what she was willing to do and what she was not willing to do, and to see her development throughout the book, you don't need 5 billion books to flesh out a character because Sarah J Maas was able to do it in 1 book. I also really like this book because I like Nesryn a heck of a lot more. Queen of Shadows, I did not like her at all. I was like, who is this woman creeping in on my man Chaol? You better step off, girl. I felt like she didn't really have enough character development. We didn't know much about her. Even starting off Tower of Dawn, I was like, I'm not loving her. She's okay. Her main characteristic was she felt at home in Antica now. But as the book progressed, and I will tell you in the spoilery section exactly at what point I fell in love with Nesryn, and I'm really glad I like her now because it would have killed me to read about her point of view in Kingdom of Ash, and the whole time I was like, but I hate you, why am I reading about you? A lead. So they're now in Antica, which is the southern continent, which has a vaguely Middle Eastern vibe to it, and also a little bit of reading the acknowledgements. I think Sarah J Maas also drew influences from Genghis Khan's empire. I really liked this world that she has built in the southern continent. I will say this book starts off really slow. There's world building at the beginning, there's a little bit of intrigue at the beginning, but the ball doesn't really start rolling until about 150, 200 pages in. There was also one element that I'll talk about in the spoiler, but there was this huge retcon of the mythology, or this big reveal that was supposed to be a reveal, but in my opinion it just freaking sounds like a retcon to me, dude. And at first when I read it, I was like, are you allowed to do that? Like, you're just a parallel novel, dude. And I will share more about my thoughts of this retcon in the spoiler section. We will have a discussion about that, believe you me. I know that Sarah J Maas's love scenes have been either really well received or critically panned and made fun of. Empire of Storms, I was leaning towards this side. Like, excuse me, he uses his wind powers to do what? but I thought the love scene done in Tower of Dawn was very sweet. I thought this was one of the better love scenes that Sarah J Maas has done. He set the tone right. It did not go on longer than we needed it to. Empire of Storms. Not gonna mention how or where or when or who it comes up with, but I really liked how the whole theme of getting up comes back in this novel, because in the first book, that was Chaol's big moment when you realized he was in it. Getting up comes into play again in this novel, and this time it's directed towards Chaol. I like that little reference to the first novel, and I kind of like how the roles were reversed this time. Honestly, at the end of reading this book, I was like, that's it. That's what I read fantasy for. That's why I fell in love with fantasy. It had the big, sweeping action scenes that I felt personally I was trying to look for in Empire of Storms, and none of the action scenes really met my expectations. This book had them. It's epic. I cannot wait for Kingdom of Ash. And now for the spoilery section of my review. So if you don't care about spoilers, or you've already read this book, choo-choo, all aboard the spoiler train. Where to begin? Okay, this is Nesrin's point of view. It's about 286 pages in when I was like, oof. I felt that. So she's kind of noticing the chemistry going on between Chaol and Irene, and then she goes, ahem. She was fine with it, she told herself. She had been a replacement for not one, but two of the women in his life. A third one. She was fine with it. She was fine with it. He's always coming in second best. I felt that. That was when my walls came down and I was like, come to me, Nesrin, and give me a hug. I got you, girl. So ever since page 286, I was like, okay, I love you. We G. We good. I can't wait to hear about your adventures now. And I really liked her adventures. I think my favorite part of this novel took place when Nesrin and Sartak went to go to the Rookin, but I also really enjoyed the scenes between Chaol and Irene. I think that the love story between them developed very organically. It wasn't insta-love. This is coming from someone who shipped Chaol and Selena to death. This is coming from the girl who had a chance to ask Sarah J Maas one question at her book signing, and my question was like, why you no put Chaol and Selena back together? I was a hardcore shipper. After Tower of Dawn, I'm like, Aelin can go choke. Like, Chaol is super happy with Irene now. He's freaking married, dude. Like, I know what that was. That was fan service. Sarah J Maas ended the book with Chaol getting married. And you know what? I'll take it. I loved it. Chaol gets his happy ending. He battles all his demons. He gets a happy ending. You know what? Don't even go back to Adderland, Chaol. Just run away and be happy. You don't need to be a part of this war. Take your happy ending and run, my man. Another one of my favorite chapters in this novel was when Chaol was battling his demons towards the end of the book, and he realized just how much he hated Aelin, and I think that was one of the most emotionally wrenching chapters in the book. Yes, you hate Aelin. Why wouldn't you? You just go through what he's been thinking of and what the baggage he's been carrying for the past 4 books. I just thought that was a really well-written chapter. I thought this was a great chapter. You kind of saw the spectrum of his emotions go from I'm freaking mad at her towards I kind of see myself in her and I'm also mad at myself. I think not only the best chapters in this novel but in Sarah J Maas's books in general. Let's talk about how Maeve is really Valg. Mixed feelings, because honestly it could have gone either way. Sarah J Maas could either have been planning this from book 1 or she could have just changed it midway through writing the series to spice things up. I don't know. I don't got the insider info, but it just felt like really that's what we have to contend with now. So everyone's Valg. There are Valg queens, there are Valg kings, there are Valg princesses, there are Valg princesses. The spider things are apparently Valg servants. It seemed to be very convenient storytelling. We did not need that this late in the game. Yes, it is a game changer, but I felt like it went way too overboard without any actual motivations. Right now, I don't see a motivation behind making Maeve Valg other than to shock us. The big showdown in the underbelly of the Torre, where Duva reveals herself. By the way, great plot twist. I did not see that coming at all. Either that's brilliant storytelling or maybe I'm just stupid. I don't know, but I did not see that coming at all. That was a very, very tense moment where Chaol gets paralyzed again. Why are all the best scenes in Sarah J Maas novels or endings revolving around Chaol getting hurt? Because I felt that kind of tension during Queen of Shadows where you're like, are you gonna kill Chaol? Is something gonna happen? And then when Irene tries to save him and there's a price, are you gonna kill Chaol, dude? I was banking on by healing Chaol, Irene would have lost her healing powers, or Chaol would have been paralyzed for good again. He would have been alive but paralyzed. So this whole bond thing where the price was if one dies the other dies and he's never gonna fully regain his walking ability felt like a little bit of a cop-out. Like I was like, that's not that big of a price to pay. You guys are in love anyway. I think it would have been cooler if, like, I don't know, she lost her powers, but I think on a whole that whole scene was really, really good. I was banking on Hafisa being the Valg. That's why when she went missing, I was like, are you the Valg? It turns out she was being held hostage, but other than that, I really love the finale. Two favorite action scenes are when Nesrin and Sartak are trying to escape the spiders, and Borte comes flying in with a legion, and that just like played out so beautifully, so epically when they're flaming arrows and the legion comes flying in, and you're like, woo! The second epic scene that I loved was at the end where Irene and Kaol are on a ship headed towards the northern continent, and then you can just picture it because she's like, I brought 300 healers. We are on the flagship, there are Rukin flying above us, there were like 1,000 ships sailing behind them, and you can just picture that sheer epicness, and you're just like, that is cool. That is how you end a book. And I really like where everyone was at the end of the book. I love that Kaol and Irene are now married. Yes, fan service, I know, but I'm liking it anyway. And how Nesrin and Sartak are sort of starting off this, you know, new kind of tender romance. I like how they're not on the same level. Kaol and Nesrin are sort of like, because I think if they had both just found true love right away, that's a little too convenient. Like, they were together, they broke up, and at the same time they found new significant others. I'm like, But that being said, I really hope that Nesrin and Sartak's relationship develops in Kingdom of Ash, because hot dang, I want to see Nesrin become Empress. If you do anything to my babies in Kingdom of Ash, Sarah J. Maas, take anybody from Empire of Storms. Take them all, but do not take anyone from Tower of Dawn. They are my precious babies. Do not hurt them. You hurt them, I get very mad, and I will write a strongly worded letter. And that about does it for my Tower of Dawn book review. You can follow me on my other bookish adventures on Twitter and Instagram, both at Cuckoo for Books. Please subscribe, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye guys!